Welcome back to the ECB Cyber Bar. I'm Gamu, your host, joined by co-host Monya, and today's cocktail is strong, controversial, and possibly even radioactive. We're going to be talking about the latest Claude Fable 5 AI model, and this was launched by Anthropic on the 9th of June, and just 3 days later got suspended by the US government. While essentially foreign nationals were suspended from using it because it is too powerful. So, Monya, what makes Fable 5 different?
Thanks, Kamu. Welcome back, guys. It's a very good question, but I'm going to throw back a question to you. What is Fable 5, and what is an AI model?
Okay, so an AI model is basically a mimicked version of the human brain. It's a mathematical and computational representation of knowledge that is trained on data. It also learns on preset data, and it can perform tasks such as prediction, reasoning, or generation without being explicitly programmed for each of those tasks. Does that answer your question?
Very much so. That was very academic and quite clinical. So yeah, back to Fable 5. Fable 5, it is, it's quite scary. They say it's very complex, and it's not your regular chat bot. It's not your can you plan the day for me, right? It's not your chat GPT. It's not your help, right? It is I don't know. It is a research tool. It's a research tool, deep reasoning, right? And its capabilities itself, right? Anthropic admitted that it's out of this world. Like, they were basically freaked out by it themselves. They called it too powerful. They created a tool, they put it out there, and they themselves said, this is too powerful, right? That tells you that we're generally in uncharted territory, not just us, the users, but the entities themselves that make these models. So it's scary stuff. But back to you, Gum. What do you think the concerns are here?
Yeah, so there are a lot of security concerns, and the fact that it just took 3 days for the US government to step in, not just any regulatory authority, but the government itself, speaks volumes. And, I love backing up my statements with facts. And it was stated, according to a BBC article, that the UK's AI Security Institute found that Fable 5 could bypass 73% of the time. It could bypass defenses, right? 73% of the time, which bypassing in this case is essentially jailbreaking. And that is very terrifying because jailbreaking essentially means manipulating the AI model into ignoring any safeguards that were already inbuilt, any safety rules, and penetrate through that. So that's just one of the security concerns. And maybe, Munya, you could expand a bit more on the others.
Yeah, that is wild. Okay, 73%, that would probably mean everything that you can get off the shelf. The 27% is probably classified models, like high security stuff. But your basic enterprise software probably falls within the 73%. So we're essentially saying that Fable can break into anything that you have right now. All right. And I don't blame the government for fearing weaponization. Okay, the US government. All right. We've got state sponsored hackers that literally live off of these things, right? Sitting in a basement somewhere, playing on a laptop in a dark room, right?
Yeah.
Imagine them getting access to this tool. I mean, scanning millions of lines of code at a speed that hasn't been seen before, something that is unimaginable, right? Faster than anything. So it's scary. It's a very elusive, autonomous tool, right? And I think before they put it out, they should have done some work around that in doing a proper appraisal and assessment. Like, what are the implications of putting this out,
All right.
right? What is the end game? Why are we putting it out, right? Is the world ready for this? Are there enough guardrails for us to put this out? So yeah, it's scary. It's scary, and bringing things closer to home, right? If a government elsewhere is I don't want to say paranoid, right? But if they justifiably concerned about dishing out something like this, right? Then where does that leave us in Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
right? Should we not have our own local guardrails, right? What does it mean for us? Who's protecting us locally? Are we waiting for a commission in the EU, the UK Parliament, the US Senate, right, to say, okay, guys, this is not good for you?
Hear you, Munya, and yeah, we're all concerned. We can't depend on other nations to govern our own local, AI models. And I think in Zimbabwe, people are still trying to get the hang of it. They're still wrapping their heads around this whole AI thing. And like in the last episode and the previous one, we talked about how we have a lot of catching up to do. So that's something that we're going to expand on later. One of my security concerns is how with AI, it's very difficult to take accountability. It's very difficult to audit trail because when it comes to humans, right? Humans leave footprints, they leave a trace of uh, their mechanisms, their methodologies in terms of how they conduct a hack. But when it comes to AI, it's very elusive, it's very like hidden and autonomous and nearly impossible to trace without, the right tools. So, like what you said, if a company can't control its own AI guardrails, should it be able to launch it in the first place? Has it been very tried and tested over and over again? But we're going to get into that later on. So, in our next segment, we're going to be talking about the AI race. So, it feels like history is repeating itself. We had the arms race during the Cold War from 1947 to 1991. Nations were stockpiling their nuclear weapons. We had the industrial race in the late 19th to 20th century, where countries are now competing to mechanize faster, to modernize faster. Now, we are in an AI race, okay? Nations are competing to build the most advanced models with security implications that are as serious as nuclear deterrence. Like, imagine if a hacker just decides with AI, set a bomb at point A and in X seconds blow up the entire building. Like that's where we're at right now, and I think people really need to take that seriously. So, what do you think about that AI arms race in the context of Zimbabwe as well?
Yeah, you took it to the wire there when you mentioned bombs, but you're talking facts. That is actually where we are, and I think as a nation, as a continent rather, we have some serious issues that we need to address and bring to light. Right? We don't have the guardrails, right? So, okay, an AI model is essentially a consumer tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think of any product that you dish out to consumers, right? It goes through some vetting, some standards,
Some tests.
some tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is this suitable for consumer consumption,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is the same being done for this, right? It's the same being done. That being said, if we had such guardrails, right, we'd be able to monitor. Okay, I'm not pro control, right? But in this instance, I feel that some level of control has to be has to be implemented, right? You mentioned the arms race. That was a scary time in history, right? Everybody was just fighting to build the biggest bomb, right?
Yeah.
Right now, data centers are coming up everywhere, right? And all this is to build capacity for the largest AI models, right? Efficient thinking tools, right? That are autonomous. That is where we are. And as a country, as a continent, if we don't adapt, if we don't keep up in this race, right? We had the industrial race after that, and and that was the birthing of the great industrial economies, right? Your Japan, the U.S. itself, right? The United Kingdom, Germany, right? They understood the mechanisms of the world, what the world needs right now, and they stayed ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, they conquered the world. And that is how Africa got left behind. We got left behind in the industrial race. So another race is coming up, and we're literally just watching, sitting in the terraces and cheering on. Oh, now Anthropic came out with this. That is really cool. That that is really cool, and we cheer on. But what are we doing as a continent, right,
Mm-hmm.
in this whole race? Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah, you raised a very good point. But in terms of Zimbabwe, I'd like to commend the Ministry of ICT in the sense that um I think it was a month or two ago when there was a summit that was held, and it was stated that there's some national AI strategy that is meant to be put in place and probably be effective, I think 2030. I think. I hope I'm not wrong. But yeah, I think um they are trying their very best to, implement the laws and the guardrails and how we can navigate this whole new thing, because this is very new. Like it's never been here before.
yeah,
So adapting to that change is not always as easy. It's not 1 plus 1.
yeah,
There's so much that comes into it. So with that being said, and with Zimbabwe's national AI strategy, I'm pretty sure that by then we would have caught up a lot. And I think people are really starting to wake up themselves as well. And not just that, but even like in the workplace, right? They need to be guardrails, not just on a national level, but even in the workplace. Like,
yeah,
how, to what extent are we going to be using AI as employees? Are you putting in your employee data into those models? Because there's a very fine line between destructive AI and productive AI.
yeah,
And we want to stay on the safe side, which is productive AI. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I totally agree, Gang, 100%. And just to add on to what you said, on government policy here, yeah, that we can see the traction. We can see the work being done. There's an interesting term, it's a buzzword going around now. It's called digital colonization, right? So think of the digital space as real estate, right?
mhm,
And as as real estate, right? Call it a chunk of land. How much of that digital space do we occupy
mm,
relative to the globe
yeah,
as a country or as a continent, right? Um, how much do we own? How much do we control,
mhm,
right? And and that then speaks to these tools as well, right? If the less control, or the less influence that we have on digital real estate, right? That means someone else is controlling it some way.
mhm,
I would call that colonization, right? And it speaks to Fable 5 and what happened with it. It was launched in the US, It was banned in the US, right? But the ripple effect is global,
Yeah.
and we can only wait to hear what the powers that be say about it, right?
Hmm.
If they'd said thumbs up, it's cool, you can all use it, right? We'd be using it right now,
Yeah.
right? If they overlooked something that is detrimental to us, where would we be right now? So yeah, it's definitely something to think about. But yeah.
Okay, so here's the question that everyone is asking. Um, are there tools that are currently available that can match the banned ones? And the answer is yes, but with caveats. So we have open sources like Llama 3, Mistral, and Falcon, which offer strong capacities, strong capabilities, but they're not as advanced as Fable 5. They're safer because, communities can monitor them, but they're also less restricted, which means that misusing them is very, very, very possible.
So this ban, Gamu, was not about competition. It was about fear, actual fear. We have governments that worry that these models, like Fable 5, could be weaponized and misused faster than they can be regulated, right? And these fears go down to the roots of its its power, right? Its strength. It can be autonomous, for one, right? Today we've got deepfake AI. We've got AI driven misinformation, right? So the paranoia is understandable, right? But banning doesn't stop innovation. We all know that, right? It just pushes it underground where it can't be regulated. So it either sits in a basement or it goes offshore. And the next generation of AI will be even more powerful than this. And we'll have models that can think across domains. We'll have models that can self correct, self regulate, self write, and act within minimal human input, right? So corporates and enterprise in Zim, well, we need to ask ourselves, do we wait for regulators to catch up, or do we proactively adopt safe, transparent alternatives? Because the race is on. The race is definitely on, and whether we join it or not, right? The horses are running. The horses are running.
They are. They are. Now back to the elephant in the room. Earlier on, you were talking about how right now we're sort of being governed by global players regarding AI. The models that are being developed are coming from the US, the UK, Europe, and so on. So you mentioned how us as a nation have to have our own local rules. And what can you go a bit deeper on that?
Yeah.
What is already there right now, and why? What could be done more? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Okay, we already regulate with Portras, right, which monitors data protection, and then we've got the Cybersecurity and Data Protection Act. Why don't we extend this, right, this bracket, this whole thinking into AI? Because AI isn't just a tech issue. It goes deeper than that. It's a national security and economic issue.
Hmm.
If we don't set local rules right now, right, we pretty much risk two things. One, which I think is the biggest, is dependency, right? We'll always wait for Brussels or London or Paris or Washington to set the standard for us, right? That leaves us vulnerable.
Hmm.
If they determine and dictate who has access to what, we're always going to be playing catch up. And yeah, and another fear is misalignment. Global rules may not fit our context, right? For example, Zimbabwe's financial sector is heavily mobile money, right? It's we've got many unbanked, right? And that's why we had a lot of digital wallets popping up, right? It's a different terrain altogether, right? Our risks are different. Our risks are different. Our approach to the threat and our response to the threat is definitely different. So if rules and standards are set offshore, right, with stable and legacy financial institutions, right, and we try and implement the same rules to Zimbabwe, Africa, where the financial landscape is totally different, where 80% of the population don't depend on legacy financial institutions, right? They move around with their money in a digital wallet. The products, the rules, the regulations, and implications are totally different. So why should governance be at that level when it can be localized? If not localized, they may be regionalized, right? Yeah, let's talk regional bodies now, right? Let's talk SADC, let's talk AU, right? I feel that they should be proactive in AI governance, right? In promoting guardrails that do not suppress us, but also understand us and promotes us, you know. So
Okay. Very valid points there. And some of things that local AI rules could cover are transparency. Corporates must disclose when they use AI in customer interactions. If I go to an organization and I'm giving my sensitive data, I need to be able to consent and to know that, okay, there's going to be some AI use in there for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That transparency is very important. And then also cover risk classification. There's low risk AI and high risk AI, and high risk AI should require approval. For example, if you're using autonomous decision making in credit scoring, that's sensitive data. You need to get that approved by the regulator. We also have security standards whereby there should be a benchmark as to say, okay, if AI surpasses the benchmark in a positive way before deployment, then it's safe, it's good to go, it's available for use. Whereas if it does the opposite, then we need to regroup, we need to circle back and iterate from there on, improve the safety of it.
100%.
And then we also have accountability. If an AI system is causing harm and there's absolutely no audit trail, no accountability, there's a lot at stake. Reputation of an organization, financials of the organization, even the business operations of that organizations become at risk. So whatever laws or rules are set in stone in an organization need to ensure that there's some form of accountability with AI. And one thing about it is that AI is not here to replace humans. You still need that human touch in your organization. You still need that person who will keep the AI accountable together with themselves to say like, okay, I use the AI to do this, and that. You can't just let it run wild and free and expect nothing to happen.
Yeah.
So here's the kicker. Local rules would also give Zimbabwean innovators confidence. If you're building AI solutions here, you know the guardrails that you've put in place yourself. You know the expectations of the citizens in the country. You are able to compete as well on a global scale without fearing any sudden bans from another party. So there's a form of independence that's there. And because right now, if Anthropic or OpenAI sneezes or there's some kind of breach that goes on, like what Munya said, there's a ripple effect and our corporates would catch a cold. So we need sovereignty in AI regulation, just as we do with currency. Otherwise, we're just going to be passengers in someone else's race instead of driving our own force. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And let's be clear, this isn't about slowing innovation. I'm pro innovation, and I detest control. But right now, right, like I see the need for it, and the AI race is like any other race. Those with rules create deterrences, and us as Zimbabwe, right, we need our own deterrence in the AI era. So, what does that mean for us here? What does it mean for enterprise locally? What does it mean for corporates, finance, and insurance? Right? It means rethinking the actual risk element. Right? AI isn't just a productivity tool; it is an attack vector. Right? It is an attack vector. I like what someone said in one of the episodes. I think it was Derek. He said it is cheaper to attack than to defend, right? And we should be proactive and preempting these risks and not react after the fact, right? Like, yeah, preparation is all I'm saying. Enterprise must be prepared. That that is what I'm advocating for.
And adding on to that preparation, collaboration is key. You know, banks, insurers, telcos, government agencies, even small, medium enterprises should share intelligence, should share threat intel. You know, one thing about cybersecurity is that there are resources online
Yeah.
where people actually feed in intel of the latest threats, the latest attack mechanisms, and how attackers are becoming more and more sophisticated. And so, for us to improve and hold on to each other's hands during this race, we need to collaborate. We need teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. And we can do that by sharing that intelligence to say, okay, there's a new AI model. These are the risks. These are the mitigations, or there's a new attack. There's a new threat that's being coupled with AI. This is what we have done as an organization to combat that, and just share that as a community, and to invest in AI driven defenses as well. Not only do you need to have that intelligence, but also you need to train your people, train your employees on how they can recognize that, okay, this attack is actually AI. This is a deep fake image. This is not real. This is a deep fake voice call, because it's getting to that point where even a voice call, which you'd think 5 years ago was impossible to clone, has now become clonable. So now you really have to be more um you have to scrutinize a lot more to say, okay, is this real, is this not? And we can't afford to be passive. Like what Munya said, we have to be proactive. And it all goes down to even goes up to the senior management, to the boards. The people that sit on boards, they must treat cyber risk as a governance issue, not just a technical IT issue. And regulators must also enforce compliance, which they have been doing, with RBZ, with POTRAS, with the Cyber and Data Protection Act. There's so many new developments that are being put in place to enforce that compliance, and also at the same time encourage innovation. Like I mentioned earlier on, we have a national AI strategy. There are opportunities opening up for people to get funding regarding whatever innovative IIT or technology ideas that they have. So it's not just about catching up, it's also about surviving in a much more digital world and digital economy. Yeah. So to conclude,
Yep.
Claude Fable 5 is showing us the future. It's showing us how powerful these models are becoming. It's showing us that as much as autonomous AI is attractive, it's causing a lot of fear, okay? And this ban, this Claude Fable 5 ban, highlights the very thin line and the tension between innovation and security. And what would be your takeaway from this, Munya?
Well, I think the takeaway is clear. Cyber risk isn't just IT. It's governance, leadership. It is national survival, right? It's a matter of national security. You know, like how you've got counterintelligence in entities. I think we should actually have panels and teams that sit on this at a national level, right? Zimbabwe must keep pace in the AI race. Africa at large, actually. And other than that, we risk being left behind. That's the truth. So I'll just leave it at that. But thank you for joining us at the Cyber Bar. Stay secure, stay resilient, and remember, in this race, speed without control is just chaos. Thank you, Gum.
Thank you, Munya. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Cheers, guys.